Back once again, this is Dennis from the Blue Corner, and today is a special episode. Why, you might ask? We finally made it to episode number 50. Like, I don't know. I see, if we weren't in lockdown, and we are in freedoms now, but like if we weren't in lockdown, I probably would have organized some streamers and everything that they pop off in the background and, you know, make a bit of a spectacle, but it is what it is. As I just mentioned, we are, half of us are finally seeing some freedoms here in New South Wales. It's been a long journey back, but it is what it is. But let's get cracking. And, today's guest actually comes from north of the border. So, he's a pro boxer with a record of 12-2, I believe. And I don't know if it was the start of this year or last year, end of last year, he took on a pretty big fight on I think it was 7 days' notice. And I must say that out of the 12 wins that he's garnished, 11 of them have been via knockout. So in other words, you don't want to fuck with him. Anyway, I'm talking about none other than the Viking himself, Stevie Sparks. How have you been, and how are things up in Queensland?
Yeah, mate, been unreal. The fight back there with Timmy back in July. Obviously, like you said, I took that fight on 6 days' notice, and obviously, most of my fights my whole career have been at super lightweight, which is two whole weight divisions down. So stepped up a fair bit of weight, and but did that one for the Australian boxing fans. After Zerafa pulled out. So I hold my head high and have no regrets on that one at all. And mate, on the whole thing here in Queensland, we're very lucky. With the whole COVID thing, and I think up here we're all feeling for a bit for he's down there and how long he's been in lockdown in Melbourne and stuff. It's pretty unreal. A lot of people here, probably don't really recognise what you guys have been going through and how tough it's probably been for you. So, in the Sunshine State here, mate, we've been very lucky.
And I have to ask, though, because, they always say for every door that shuts, another one opens. I kind of feel like this is the opposite right now. For every door that opens, another one shuts, because the latest kind of news is that, speaking of Tim Tszyu, he's looking for a new location for his next fight, because it seems that now that everyone's reopening, when I say everybody, I'm talking about obviously New South Wales, I'm talking about Melbourne, it seems that you guys are potentially closing now. Is that what's happening, or what's the deal with that?
Well, there's so much up in the air there with that. And I think I kind of always had an inkling they would move the fight once things opened up with New South Wales. And it's one of those things with Queensland. It's not that we're closing down. We're making it impossible for people to come in here, from New South Wales. So I think they're having a bit of trouble with the whole quarantine with people coming in, and overseas opponent with the Japanese fella and stuff. So it made more sense to them at the moment. New South Wales, their rules and regulations on bringing people into the state and letting them out is a lot easier. So I think it's more so on the fact of people coming into Queensland. So I don't know, and I'm supposed to be fighting in December sometime, which I dare say will probably be in New South Wales. So there's going to be things to sort out over the next couple of weeks, and what happens there.
It's weird, right? I kind of feel like, is that a money thing? Because obviously Queensland had no problem in taking this, like the state of origin. It had no problem taking the NRL, and it had no problem hosting the finals as well, right? So do you think it's because you would think something like a Tim Tszyu fight would bring enough money into the state, but like, what do you think it could be?
I don't know. There seems to be a lot of politics involved with, sports like NRL and AFL and stuff. And, boxing sort of still a little bit of that, that outcast sport compared to those ones with TV rights and stuff. So, I'm not too sure what's going on there. But, it's a hard thing with the COVID. You want everyone to be safe and you want the health and regulations to be followed. But, we also sort of want to get on with sports and life and jobs. And, there's so much more at stake than just sport. But, we all kind of want to get back to normality, and they're saying that's with vaccination rates and stuff. So if that's how it has to go, then that's how it has to go, I guess.
Yeah, it seems that way. That's why I say only half of us have got our freedoms at the moment down here. Is they've opened up as of Monday, but only for people that have been double vaxxed. So basically, if you don't,
I think it's such a touchy topic on that, because I feel like someone myself who say I chose not to get vaccinated or I did get vaccinated, the person who hasn't, why should they be punished for that decision? it's hard. You're losing. It's discrimination against your own rights on being able to do something, and you're segregating the people and having a big divide there, and creating a lot of different animosities between people. So I don't know. I just want to see everyone be safe and the world get back to normal. You look at America and you look at that Fury fight the weekend and how many thousands of people are there, and in the UK and events are going ahead. I'd love to see Australia back to that and thriving again.
No, and you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the one thing that I've said is the thing that annoys me is that it really has put a divide in people. And I'm the same. I'm like, look, I said it last week. I don't care if you get vaccinated. I don't care if you don't
Yep.
get vaccinated. I think you should
Yeah.
have that choice, but then live with your choice, right? So, for instance, if you don't get vaccinated, you end up in hospital. Don't cry afterwards. Like, I think
Yeah.
you should have the choice. It should totally be up to you, but whatever you choose, then live with that thing. But yeah, I'm the same, mate. The divide is and look, and it's been from the very get go, because I remember when this pandemic first started, right? It was like I couldn't believe the fights that people were having over toilet rolls and things like that. And that was the thing I
Mate,
said
it's
back.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's the thing that
It's,
I
yeah,
said
it's
back then.
unbelievable. Yeah.
It's the thing that I said back then was literally is I can't believe that we're so divided again. It's like, you have one person that's got like a shopping trolley full of toilet paper. You have an old lady kind of go, can I just have like two rolls? And they're like, no, it's like every man
Yeah.
for themselves. It was crazy.
Yeah, and on such a silly thing like toilet paper, I don't understand it. Oh yeah, it's brought out some funny things, this whole COVID pandemic and stuff. Like I said, I just want to see the world get back to normal and everyone be happy, and yeah, so hopefully we can look for brighter days next year.
And so, I mean, just we'll move on soon, but like, how has it affected you? I guess with your boxing career, like, because I don't even know, like, have you guys had any sort of lockdowns? Like, because over here,
Yeah, we
um,
we did. When COVID first hit back, when it first come, I think it was about March or April or whatever it was. Just yeah, mid March or something like that. And I was meant to be fighting May sometimes against Terry Tazamas, who is from down in Melbourne way, and obviously, you know, COVID hit and we couldn't even go to the gym and anything like that. So, I had that fight got cancelled, and I was talking to my trainer, and I wasn't really in the gym for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously, I was trying to do as much as I could at home, and one of my mates was coming at home, and he was helping hold pads for me, and I was just doing what I could. But obviously, you're so unsure back then. Everyone was so unsure what was going to happen, and then we were actually the first ever professional boxing back in Australia. My trainer actually put a fight on for me in Smithy's gym, in our gym, when restrictions lifted here in Queensland and we could have 100 people within a room. So we had 100 people in the gym. Most of them were my great sponsors and friends and family. And it was really good. I was able to have, a first fight back, and I think it was July last year. So we were the first fight back in Australia, professional boxing. I think we had 4 fights on. And I fought a good opponent in Michael Whitehead, who was also a Queenslander, so I made it very easy. They just said, "Yeah, we're willing. We'll put our head down and work hard and make this happen and be fit and ready." And look, the show turned out really good, and we live streamed that, across the world. And yeah, mate, it was a great success, and I was very happy to get that fight away. And then I backed up again straight away in November. We were really lucky. Like Queensland, sort of their rules and regulations with how many people you can have a room in that weren't too harsh, and I think it allowed us to keep going with the professional boxing. And yeah, I had that fight against Kieran Cronin where I won the WBC Australasian title and finished last year, and I was pretty happy with the year. I had 2 fights for the year, 2 great wins, and kept moving through the rankings. And obviously in April I had the fight with Jack Brubaker, which I stepped up to welterweight. So, and then the fight with Tim Tszyu. I mean, if COVID wasn't around, I wouldn't have got that fight you know, with Tim because of Michael Zerafa pulling out due to COVID reasons. So you guess I could sort of say it's been a blessing in disguise for me. I put my head down and worked extremely hard. I know there was a lot of fighters throughout the COVID who probably let it slip, and they you know, it's been very hard for them, of course, but the ones that put the work in and behind the closed doors, when boxing first opened back up, there was a lot of huge upsets, in the UK, and they were doing those behind the closed doors shows, and the ones at Abu Dhabi, all these different fight nights. There was so many upsets happening because of the fighters who continue to put their head down and work hard, or the ones that didn't and let it slip. So I think it showed the ones who wanted it and the ones who didn't.
But I have to ask, do you 100% believe that that was the real reason Zerafa pulled out of that fight? Do you think it was just due to COVID reasons, or because obviously, and look, I don't want to put anything bad on Zerafa either, but like, you know, some people have spoken, they kind of went that was a ticket to kind of like move that fight and maybe try to get it at a later stage or whatever. And as I said, I mean,
Just see, mate, I was from Queensland and I hopped on a plane the next day and flew straight down. You know, like, come on. If you wanted to be there, you'd be there. And I don't know, things with about his team going there. There was I guess from their side, it was like, oh, but what if this happens? What if this happens? You know, worry about that bridge when you get there. I think, you know, I just thought stuff this. Like, these are the sort of opportunities you jump at. And if he wasn't willing to, you know, put it all the chips down on the table, and I was. And you look at, mate, a lot of these fighters are going into quarantine for 2 weeks. Look at Liam Wilson's opponent, who fought on that same card. No, he come over and quarantined in a room by himself for 2 weeks. Didn't have any trainers in his room, nothing, for 2 weeks before that fight. Now that's a man who's come here to win, and he did, and he went out there and beat Liam Wilson, one of our hottest prospects. So would have Zerafa quarantined in a room for 2 weeks if he had to fight Tim? No. So I guess it just shows how bad do you want it. If you're searching for every single thing to be perfect and right, it's never going to happen. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have things that go wrong and in training camps. But at the end of the day, it's about who gets in that ring and fights.
Nice. And how did that fight come about for you? Like, was it a case of you heard Zerafa pulled out and you put your hand up, or did they contact you?
I was at my day job. I work at a pub part time. I train people PTing, and then I also work at a pub on the weekends or during the day. And I was at work, and I was getting a call from Brendan, my trainer manager, and I was like, "Oh, this is weird." When always calling me, and picked it up, and he asked me, he's like, "Oh, how's your hand?" And because I had a bit of a hand injury from the Brubaker fight, and I said, "Oh, it's all right. We hadn't been doing much." I always said I don't want to come on and ever make excuses for that fight, but yeah. Anyway, I had a little bit of a hand injury. I said, "Oh, it's all right." And I said, "Why is that?" And he's like, "Oh, is it good enough to fight Tim Tszyu?" I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Mate, I don't think Zerafa's going to go." I said, "You're kidding." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "They rung me and asked if you wanted to fight." I said, "Right, I'll give you a call back in 5 minutes." I told my boss, I said, "Oh, look, this is the go." I said, "I got to go to the gym and speak to my manager trainer." And I rang Brendan back. I said, "I'll see you at the gym in about 5 minutes." So I drove back to the gym and we had a chat for about 20 minutes. And yeah, we made the decision, rang them back and said, "Yeah, we're keen on it." And they said, "Right, will we give you a call this afternoon, let you know if you've got it." And now they put a Facebook post up, about 4 different fighters on there. Me, myself, Benny Marnie, Andrew Hunt, and someone else asking, who would be the best to fight Tim Tszyu on late notice as Zerafa's not fighting. I just commented on there. I said, "Forget the other three. I'm the man for the job. I'll fly down tomorrow. I'll do this. Like, I'm not worried." And yeah, I think that was a big swayer on also them making the decision. And then, yeah, Brendan said, "If we get the contract this afternoon, we'll have a train then." And, so, yeah, he said we got the contract and signed it. And yeah, that was it. 6 days later, I'm down there.
Nice. And I did see on your Instagram, you did a post, and I'm not sure if it was before or after the fight, but the caption to it was risk better than regret. Do you remember that post, and what do you mean by that?
Yeah, for sure. I just thought to myself, and I was sitting there, and I knew for a fact if I was sitting here now and someone else had taken that fight, I would be thinking, what if I jumped in there? I could have caught Tim with a shot, or I'm known to be a big puncher, and boxing's a sport of kings. It's a sport of opportunity. I think people like Manny Pacquiao and these fighters like this, they jumped in there for so little money just to feed their family and stuff like that. So I thought, why not go down there, have a crack? He's just a man. He's got a heartbeat, two hands, two legs, just like me. He wakes up in the morning the same as me. So I fear no man at the end of the day to get in there and have a fight. What's the worst that can happen? So I thought, stuff it. I'll go down there and seize this opportunity with both hands.
But I guess the risk there is, and we spoke about this before we jumped on the podcast, is obviously in boxing those L's do set you back a little bit. Like, was that ever a thought process, or were you just like, no, because obviously it is a mammoth task. I mean, you jumped up not one but two weight classes.
Yeah.
You're taking it on 7 days. Like, not to say that you accepted the fight, not to say that you accepted the fight with an excuse already built in, but like, did that, like, no, what was the thought process, I guess, taking that fight, knowing that boxing is so harsh, as we spoke about, with having a loss on your record?
Yeah, I guess obviously, like you said, already having that loss on your record kind of takes away that feeling of, I guess, losing a fight after that too. That monkey's off your back, in a way. You've already lost a fight. So I guess once you lose a fight for the first time, it's kind of like, oh, is that what it feels like? I don't know. It's a strange feeling to when you haven't lost before and then you do. It's kind of like a thing of relief sometimes, because that's out of the way now, and you kind of just don't give a shit, to be honest, anymore after that. Not that I obviously ever want to lose a fight. After that fight, I was so determined, that first fight I ever lost back when I was 18. After that, I knocked everyone out. I come through the ranks. I won the Queensland title. I won the Australian title. I was knocking everyone out. No one was going the distance with me at super lightweight. So, and I guess, like you said, weighing up the things of, I'm stepping up 2 weight classes. I'm taking this fight on 6 days' notice. The way I looked at it was a win-win situation for me. I got a huge payday as well. To me, it was, I feel like I'm going to gain more from this either way. I was going down there to win, and I only got the fitness for 3 years. So I was like, either he's getting knocked out in 3 or I am. That's what I had in me, and that's what I took into the fight. Was, I believe it was a win-win situation for me no matter what. So I went down there with that attitude, and I gave it a red hot crack. And also, for me, it was for the Australian boxing fans too. Everyone was, look at the flack that Zerafa copped just for what he did, and look at the praise I received for doing what I did. And I think that's what it's about as well. It's about being brave, and it's about setting good examples for my kids to come, and my friends and family and everything like that. It's about being brave, setting those good examples, and tackling every task you have in front of you head on, and just going for it. That's what life's about. And if you fail, dust yourself off and go again. I've always said I've been a big fan of Paul Gallen and his attitude and his mindset. He's like, as we get older as adults, everyone's so quick to pull everyone down, and we have such a tall poppy syndrome here in Australia. We should be getting behind people a bit more. And I seen a post last night on Oz Boxing about Jai Alpateas has been mandated for the IBF world title. And I commented on there, everyone's like, oh, it's too soon, it's this, he's going to. And I was like, Australian boxing fans are the hardest to please, because if you're building your record slowly and you're gaining that experience, and you're taking your time, everyone sees you fighting bums and you're cherry picking, you're doing this, you're doing that, right? You take a jump early in your career and you fight for a world title, or you fight a world-class opponent, everyone jumps on there and jumps on your neck and says, it's too soon, he's going to get destroyed, he's going to get hurt. We need to be a bit more patriotic. I look at the English and I look at the Irish and all of them, they're behind their fighter no matter what. Like, Conor McGregor can do anything, and his countrymen are always behind him, no matter what he does, and I feel like Australia needs to be more like that for their fighters and their sports people. We're going in there to risk it for the entertainment of the fans. We're risking our lives every time we step through that ring. And I would just love to see the fans be behind us no matter what, no matter how big the task is or how small. Just respect what we're doing, and the fact that we're getting in there. I like what, Tyson Fury said. He called it, blood money. What we're doing is blood money. We're getting in there to get paid, and we're losing our own blood, and losing our senses and losing everything about ourselves just to earn a bit of money, and for the entertainment of the fans. So, a little bit more respect and support and patrioticness would be good for the fans, so.
I mean, it's half the reason that I started this podcast is literally that. I just felt that, unless you're a champion of whatever it is, whether it's boxing, whether it's, mixed martial arts, you're just not getting the platforms that I felt that, you as combat athletes deserved. And that was half the reasoning from creating this whole podcast, right? But a quick question though, because you did mention that you're a fan of Paul Gallen. My question to you though is, so you don't have a problem with the crossover stuff? Because, and I only say that as obviously he's had some success, but when we're in this era now where you have that, and I mean the big one is the Jake Paul fiasco or whatever, but when you have these crossover people, you have two minds, and the first is like, it's disrespectful to people like yourself who have really like given up their whole life for the sport, and that's all they've dedicated their life to the sport, and that's all they've done. And then you have the other people that are kind of like, well, it brings more eyes to the sport that we love. So, and it in a lot of cases as well, it raises the pay grade. So there's a positive there too. So you have no problem in this crossover kind of what we're seeing right now?
It's people call it a crossover at the end of the day, but Paul Gallen's a full-time athlete. That man is 100% a full-time athlete. And you look at Jake Paul, right? And even him, he's an athlete and he's been putting in the hours, and you can clearly see that. Like he beat Ben Askren, and he he had a very close fight on his last one there, but he did beat him. And I respect any man that steps through the rope, because it doesn't matter who you are putting your life on the line every time you fight in the ring. I mean, look at the people that Jake Paul has fought. Any one of those shots could put a man unconscious and potentially give them life-threatening injuries. So any person that's stepping through the ropes and putting their life on the line deserves respect. And from me, I'll give them that respect. And I guess where again, a lot of the hatred comes from some of the fighters, and I guess other people's the disrespect that Jake Paul can sometimes give to the higher level fighters. Paul Gallen, for example, he's never gone out there and disrespected no one. He's never come out and said he's going to win a world title or do any of the. He's just gone out there and said he's having a crack and taken to it as far as he can. And he's just given entertainment to the people. He's got a lot of following, and that's what I like. And he's never disrespected any other fighter. And then you go to someone like Jake Paul. I guess where the hatred comes is because he gets on there and he disrespects people in a way that can come across very bad to other people, and other fighters don't like that. I guess, but that's what Jake Paul's doing, and he's selling tickets. So, but like I said, I respect him, and he's helping fighter pay as well. I mean, I guess a lot of the time people are just jealous too because of the money he's making from it too. And like you said, they have dedicated their their life to it. But maybe some of these fighters could take a leaf out of his book and maybe promote yourself a bit better. If you want to get paid more, promote yourself better and work on your social media platform and your YouTube and do vlogs, whatever you need to do. If you want to have that kind of star power that Jake Paul does, put that work in as well on that side as well. It's always been the biggest thing, and which sucks. The best fighters don't always get paid the most. You look at someone like Rigondeaux, and they never really got paid a whole lot of money because they're obviously not overly exciting. You look at someone like Terence Crawford, and that they're not huge sellers. They don't have big pay-per-view numbers. They don't have big sellers, and people come watch their fights. But they're growing, and but it's just how it is. Sometimes not the best fighter gets the biggest numbers, and that's just a sport. It's about, at the end of the day, if you want to get paid more, it's how many bums you can put on seats or eyes on TVs.
And I guess that's what it is, because you're right. Like, the Jake Paul, he's making millions, right? Where a lot of these fighters aren't.
Yeah.
And it's the same, I guess. I had Tyson Lantry on, I think 2 weeks ago now, and he was saying his fight against Luke Jackson, which I think was on the undercard of one of Tszyu's fights as well.
Yeah.
Which one was it?
I think that was against Bowen Morgan.
Yeah, the Kiwi guy. Yeah. And he said, like, he was quite upfront and honest about it. He said, I made 5K for that fight. And you see
That's
he made 5K against like Luke Jackson, who's obviously, a former Olympian. He was the Olympic captain. He just came off a title fight against Frampton. And then you had like Paul Gallen with a guaranteed 400,000, right? And you kind of go, well, he's a football player getting 400,000, and you've got a boxer in a pretty hard fight who's getting 5K. But you're right there. What Jake Paul and Paul Gallen do is they bring a new audience, and it's exactly that, which means more audience, more people tuning in, more people buying the pay-per-view, and
yeah. And also too, I think that was Lantry's first fight on a high level event, on a high pay-per-view event. So, and also obviously too, it was kind of his opportunity. Lantry was the B-side to me, and he was someone who was getting, like you said, the opportunity to fight a Luke Jackson and fight these blokes who have that star power and on that big card. So, I do hope that he did get paid a little bit more on his next fight there with Paul Fleming, because he had a good showing against Luke Jackson. So I dare say he would have got a little bit more there. So because he went out and won that fight, against Luke Jackson, who, great name, and like you said, had fought for a while time. He was getting the opportunity, and he wasn't a very well known, person. But after that fight, he would have got a little bit more, I'd say, and he fought someone like Paul Fleming, and obviously he come undone in that fight and didn't get the win. But I guess that was too a big thing on me fighting Tim, was because I knew the social media surrounding Tim. I knew the media power around Tim, and I was also, like I'm gonna use this to my advantage fully. And I'm probably one of the most talked about fighters in Australia as well, and because of that, I seized that opportunity to use that. A lot of these fighters don't know how to get on telly, and they don't know how to get on these interviews and how to talk properly, and they get on TV, and that's what it's about. It's about selling yourself. A lot of these footy players do. They do social media training, and they learn how to talk, and I think that's a big thing of being able to, relate to the public, relate to the fans and supporters and everyone that gets behind it. Because if you can be someone that people like listening to, and you sound half smart, and you can string a sentence together, it definitely helps with people, liking your character and getting behind it. And that's what people sort of latched onto with my fight with Jack and with Tim and everything like that. And yeah, I just try and be myself as much as I can and be confident with what I'm saying and relate to people.
Well, I was about to bring up the Jack fight, right? Because I read an article on that, and basically you were then from then on known as the nicest guy in Australian
Yeah.
combats. What like? Did you know what you were going to say going into there, and did you kind of know that you were going to get that kind of recognition from that post fight
No,
speech?
I was like just amped up. I don't know. I was just amped. I was just saying whatever flowed off the tongue, and it was a. I look back on that interview when they were sharing it for the other. It was just a funny interview. I was just so amped up and just let it all flow away. It was such a blast, that whole card. That was on a Gallon undercard and in Wollongong. That was my first big fight on the telly, and I stepped up a weight division. I just wanted to make a big showing on that one, and I looked online after the fight about an hour and seen all the the posts and that, and yeah, I don't think I'm definitely the nicest bloke in Australia. I think there's like in combats, you look at Alexander Volkanovski and that, they're such cool guys, and they're cool to talk to, and you see the interviews. But you know, if I can, keep being a good person and people, relate that to me, that's good. I like that.
And I guess, why the emotions run so wild as well is I do believe you were the underdog for that fight as well, right? And everyone loves a good underdog story as well.
It's it's funny. The bookies had me as the favorite, but like everyone in the boxing circles had me as the underdog. I was coming up a weight class and everything like that. But yeah, the bookies had me as the favorite, and all my friends were like saying, "Damn, we wanted to make some money off it." I said, "Oh well, Jack Brubaker is tough as hell." I said, "I don't know if I'll knock him out because I'd been knocking everyone out." I said, "Man, Jack Brubaker's probably got one of the best chins in boxing." And I said to him, "If you're gonna put something on, put it on me to win on points." So and a few of them got on some good. I think it was paying like 650 to win on points or something like that. So a few of them made some good money off me on that one.
Nice, nice. But going back to your Tim Tszyu experience, I guess as well. It was obviously not the first encounter you've had with him. I believe he was actually on the undercard to one of your fights, and then
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
and then there's a famous photo now, or it is now, of you guys posing for a photo together where you captioned it "Real recognize real." At those points of time, did you ever look at Tim then and go, he will one day be an opponent of mine, or at that sort of stage, because of the weight classes and stuff, did you just like it was?
Not so quickly. I did actually think I'd fight Tim. I thought, that was straight after the Jack Brubaker fight, that one there. I seen him down the front row there, and I was like, oh, we'll get a photo, and it was pretty cool. And I always thought, standing next to him, I was like, oh, he's not too much bigger than me. I was like, what's another weight class? That's I was thinking. So, I did always have in the back of mind that I probably would share the ring with Tim, and it definitely happened way quicker than what I thought. It's even one of those things. 6 days. I would have loved to have had 4 months to fill out for the weight division. Try and you know put that size on naturally and correctly. For that weight division. So it is one of those things, mate. But yeah, I always in the back of my mind thought I was going to fight Tim, and it's just crazy how life, another post, life comes fast. It just comes fast, and sometimes you talk about the law of attraction and thinking about things like it's like I thought that into existence and it come into the universe for me. So it was crazy how it all happened, but I'm glad it did. I have no regrets on it at all.
And you kind of like answered a little bit of the next thing I was going to ask you, which is what was the toughest thing about that fight? And I'm not talking about the fight in general. I'm talking about more the lead up. Was it the weight class? The fact that was that harder, or was it the fact that you took it on such short notice? What was hardest?
Well, the hardest thing was knowing that I wasn't going to be fit enough as such, because I hadn't even sparred around since Brubaker because I had that hand injury. So I knew my timing was going to be off. I knew that I hadn't done any. I just knew I wasn't going to be fit enough. But, I wasn't going to go down there and say this to all the media and that, the people want to know someone down there is coming to fight, which I was, but the hardest thing was mentally, like staying up here, and Brendan worked with me for the next 6 days on building me up slowly, building me up mentally. You can't go down there and train your ass off for 5 days. You can't do that. You're not going to get fit in 5 days for a fight. So we slowly brought the legs into work and a little bit of boxing here and there on the pads and stuff, and just had to do what we did. But Brendan did a lot of mental work on with me, and I watched a couple of videos, and yeah, he worked on me mentally on staying above and staying positive on certain things that will work on the fight. And I think that's a big part of a trainer. It's different on someone who can hold some pads, but a trainer that can work with you mentally and convince you that you're going to win. Like, it was funny, the first day I went down there, I was like, all right, man, this is going to be a big task. I was thinking, fuck, what have I done? And then by, the second day in, a little bit more confident, a couple more interviews on the TV, and, I started to talk myself into the fight, I guess. I was like, yeah, I can do this. And by the day before the weigh-in, I was like, I'm going to fucking beat him. Like, that was in my mindset. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm down here to win. And it was crazy. So, mentally, I just come up every single day. And by the end of it, I was convinced, and Brendan had me convinced I was going to have a fair shake at this. So, like you said, but on the physical side of things, yeah, probably the hardest thing was knowing that I wasn't going to be fit enough. And, obviously Tim, when we weighed in, obviously the same size, but, you hop in the ring, he's probably got 8 kilos there, probably on me pretty easily, so you start to feel that weight as the rounds go on. So if I built that weight on naturally and not just by food being a bit chubby because I hadn't been done much training, it would have made a big difference as well. So, but look, it is what it is.
And chances are that he obviously had a weight cut to make that weight, and you probably walked onto the scale, right? Which is that extra weight then come fight night.
Yeah.
Do you find that taking on short notice fights like that though can help you sometimes as well, because it doesn't give you the chance to overthink it?
For sure. I definitely, if I was in full training say I was in training and was fit and in shape, and you know what, it definitely would have been a whole different fight. And I do agree with you, because you don't have that, 10 weeks of leading up, your stressing, your anxiety, and all that stuff about the fight. So if anyone says they're not scared for a fight or don't get anxiety, they're fucking lying, because, mate, you're about to go in there and risk your life, and you're about to fight another man who's going to try and knock your ass out. Like, that's some scary things. So, anyone that says they don't get those kind of feelings is lying. We all get it as human beings. It's natural, and it's good. You need that for the adrenaline, for the, you become half superhuman on the night because you have those, those flooding of adrenaline and everything through your body. But in another way, though, I know I also train harder when I've got someone in my mind, because, like if I'm in maintenance mode, I guess, when I'm not in training camp and I've got a date set, I'm not training twice a day all the time. I might train twice a day, 3 times a week, because you don't want to burn your body out either. And then when I go into training camp, it's every day, twice a day. So I guess the intensity when I know I have someone to train for is a little bit higher. So I don't know. I guess you don't have that mental side of it about thinking about it every day, but you also do have the mental side of it because you're pushing your body a little bit harder, I believe. So it's a bit of a catch-22, I think, on that one.
And you just mentioned maintenance mode versus fight camp. What does your training look like on a regular week? Like, if you were to compare the two, like in fight camp and out of fight camp, how does it differ?
I guess when I'm in fight camp, obviously the sparring is a lot more. When I'm not in training camp, I don't like to spar too much. Like, I'm a big believer on not too many hits to the head and wear and tear on the body. Like, I don't think if you have a fight coming up, you need to be doing a whole lot of sparring, especially if you got injuries and stuff like that. Why risk hurting yourself even more? Like, I've always had problems with my hands and that, so I try and risk lower the risk of obviously injury in that by not sparring and hitting the head, because the head's the hardest part, to hit out of the pads and the bag and everything like that. So, but to me, I just sort of, if I'm a little bit tired one day or I got something on, I might skip that second session and not do it. Or, if the partner wants to go out for dinner or something like that, we go out for dinner. Or on the weekend, we might do something, Um, but I generally always try and train every single day. I do train every single day, even when I'm in that maintenance mode, and that I try and work on probably strength blocks a little bit more, building that strength. But yeah, definitely lower that sparring down, like lower that right down. And then when obviously, training camp kicks off, we up the ante on the spar and we start traveling away. I think traveling away for sparring is a big thing for me. I love that travel where you go to someone else's gym. You have to deal with sitting in a car for 2 hours, get out of the car, train, then I head back to Toowoomba, and that's all things you got to deal with, like in a fight, that unfamiliar territory where you're going into the ring and fighting someone new. So dealing with that, and I guess just the whole intensity of when you train, you push on the bag, you push one more out. You push a few more combinations out. When you're on the track in the morning and in training camp, you're thinking about that bloke when you're running that last 400 meter. It just, everything amps up a little bit more because obviously you don't want to get beat. And when that alarm goes off at 5 a.m., I'm thinking about not getting knocked out by getting up. So that's the way I look at it. Is I need to put those hours in because it's money in the bank.
And I have to ask you, only because you are a proud, born and bred Toowoomba boxer, but also knowing like it is pretty regional, right? So when it comes to fight camp and things like that, is it hard to find sparring partners, or is it something that you take your fight camp away from Toowoomba, or do you bring people in? How is that?
Yeah, it's good being up in Toowoomba here. We used to have a huge gym back in the day. We'd have the likes of Lee Sherrington and we had Josh Bailey, we had Darren Askew, we had Braid Smith, we had Will Young, 3 times Australian champion. We had Jack Assis, and I know him. He won the IBO world title against Kai McKenzie back in the day. And I think we had about 12 or 15 professional fighters there. So it was so good. Obviously now a lot of them boys are retired. They've got to father time now, and they're all finished. But I would say I'm probably the only elite level professional fighter at that gym. So we travel away to Brisbane or Gold Coast generally every week, once a week. And then as we get close to the fight, we travel away twice a week for sparring down there and get some good work in there with the boys. We know a lot of the boys around here, like Dennis Hogan. There's boys like Ben Marnie, all those bigger fellas, some welterweights like Ben Kite. There's some great boys that we are only an hour and a half away down the road for me to travel down and spar with. But before my fight with Brubaker, I think about it was 3 weeks before we went down to Sydney. I actually went to Tim's gym and we did a bit of training there. We went to Bondi Boxing Club, did some sparring down there. So we spent about a week down in Sydney and got some good sparring and got some good training and just changed up that environment. I think that's important too. It's good to get out of that same atmosphere all the time and sometimes give you a bit of a lift and give you a bit of sproof in that last bit of that training camp where it can get a bit grueling. The last 4 weeks you just think, stuff this. Just want to fight, sick of training, sick of being tired, sick of being sore. I just want to get it on with this bloke, So those last 4 weeks can be challenging, and to get away and get that training in is a big lift sometimes. So yeah, it was good to get down to Sydney before that fight. But yeah, we try and get away as much as we can for training and sparring.
And I guess it's just kind of nice to take you. I mean, I feel the same sometimes where, like, just with work or whatever, it's just nice to take away because you leave everything behind, right? Whether it's work, whether it's family, whatever, you can just focus a little bit more. I mean, look, and we'll kind of finish off with that fight, but is there anything that surprised you in that fight? Like, or was Tim everything you kind of expected, or was this, once you felt him, like, was there more power than what you thought he had, or was he quicker than you thought he might be? Is there anything that kind of surprised you about him?
Was it? He probably hit. It's funny because he got me with a body shot and that, and it's like I probably think he hit less harder than what I'd expected to hit. Like I expected him to hit a lot harder. Like nothing to the head ever buzzed me once. Never buckled my legs. Never, look at the fight with Brubaker. Brubaker actually dropped me. In that first round he caught me with the right hand and dropped me. So and that was good timing, and I just ran onto that shot. Whereas Tim, he never even hurt me with a headshot once. Like it was not the same sort of power. I guess the thing that was like shocked me, and it kind of comes into the fact that I wasn't in shape. My body wasn't hardened, and that I hadn't had the hard sparring and anything like that. But the accumulations of the shot, like he's constant. He's on you like that pace, and everyone says that like he's got that pace, and then body shots. Holy fuck, man, that left rip. I've never been in so much pain. It was just such a well placed shot. I was going for my own hook, and as I've gone under, boom, it's just gone under, and it was like that double impact on that body. And I'd rather get hit to the head all day. A good body shot underneath it just takes the soul out of you, eh? Like he's the soul taker, but it just takes that everything out of your body just leaves you completely, and everything. Like it's hard to get like a body shot out of your system. Like it can last with you for rounds after. Like you see, they say putting in that work early for the later rounds. A body shot just doesn't leave you. It stays with you for the rest of the fight. So I guess the accumulation of his shots and the accuracy. He had very good accuracy and accumulation, but I wouldn't say his power was like it was nothing that I hadn't felt before. Brubaker to me hit harder. So
Well, was it the liver shot though? Because usually
yeah, liver left it. Yeah.
yeah, that because that'll drop you, right? Like, and from memory,
Oh yeah. People said to me after, "Oh, how's your ribs?" When I got back to Toowoomba, I said, "Oh, my ribs are fine." I said, "Ribs aren't like that." I said, "It's the liver, man." I said, "There's nothing there. It's just your liver. Like it's like someone opening you up and just poking your liver as hard as they can." It was just it's a terrible feeling. I was just on the ground screaming in pain.
And the worst thing about the liver shot is always that delayed thing as well, right? And talking about, I know
Oh, it
earlier
is.
we spoke about Cowboy Cerrone. He got knocked with a really good one in his career, and it's like it's that delayed response because you're waiting for the toxins to release, and
Oh,
like
it's such a weird thing, eh? It hits you, and you're like, "I'm good," and then you're like, "I'm not," and then it just like it sinks your whole body, like it just shuts you down. I've actually seen someone go unconscious from a body shot before. In our gym, they got hit with the left rib. One of the pros, and he actually went to sleep. Like from a left, the pain was too much. His body kind of just shut down. So I don't know. There's nothing more painful than a body shot. I think it just takes you, and then you got that solar plex right up the middle. I don't know if you've ever been hit there in that solar plexus. That's another terrible one too. Anything around the body is terrible.
and I believe from memory as well, he got you there twice, right? Because
Twice, yeah, good.
yeah,
Got me the first one. Yeah, yeah, and then moved around for a bit, and I threw that left hook, and yeah, it was one of the things. I had a little when I was fresh and good. I had a little bit of success in the first round. Like I got him with some good shots, and even said after, I hit quite hard and got him with some good ones and that. But as soon as the condition kicked in, it was just couldn't hold him off any longer.
so obviously you've had words afterwards, and there's like a mutual respect and everything, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tim actually messaged me once, when I had my little boy and said congratulations on the birth of your baby boy and stuff. And yeah, look, we talk occasionally, and he's a gentleman of the sport, and I wish him all the best. And I hope he I hope he wins a world title for Australia, and I'm sure he will, and I'm sure he will surpass everyone's expectations of him. He's a very hard worker, and he takes the sport very very seriously. So I wish him all the best of his career, and he's an incredible person and an incredible athlete.
And for you, has life changed since that fight? Like since that fight now, with more eyes, I guess, on yourself and stuff. Like, has life changed at all?
Yeah, to an extent, it is what it is. Like I definitely have a lot more social media following and a lot more people who know who I am just in the street. Um, but that doesn't change anything for me, mate. I just stay the same humble person I am and just keep doing what I'm doing. It definitely made me a little bit more determined. Like I just stay in shape and get back into the gym as quick as I could. Obviously, let my hand hit a little bit more and for a couple of weeks, but yeah, straight back up into the gym.
Nice, nice. And I have to follow up on Tim's congratulations and congratulate you as well on the birth of your baby boy.
Yeah,
Is it your first child?
yeah, first baby boy. Yeah, yeah, first one.
So I have to ask, and the only reason I ask is my partner right now is heavily pregnant as well. So we're going through that process
Yeah,
at the moment.
congrats.
I actually think it's next week we find out. Well, we can find out what sex it is. So we're at that sort of
Oh, cool.
19 week right
Yeah,
now. So how is fatherhood treating you? How has life changed since fatherhood?
yeah. Like it's one of those things. Everyone can sort of tell you what it's going to be like, and even like the birth and everything like that. I think that's probably the biggest eye opener for me. Like everyone can tell you what it's going to be like, and until you're there and in person and experience that, man, I have a new respect for how tough women are. Like, I don't think I could go through it. It's a wild experience, and they're unbelievable on how they can do that, and bring them little humans into the world. It's incredible. But life for us has changed completely, since he's here, and it comes definitely more about him than it is yourself, and yeah, it just your priorities change and your perspective on the world change definitely, and mate, they're just amazing when you hold them in there and they're looking up at you. It's a crazy feeling to know you're a father, and yeah, life just changes completely. It's an amazing experience. But on the other side, I won't lie. Like, it definitely puts a strain on a relationship too. It can be very hard. My partner, she's 19, so she's a little bit younger than me. I'm 25, so it's been a little bit hard for her, and you know, adapting to all of that. So it's a big change on both you and your relationship. I think it's important when you do have a baby to make sure you keep putting time into each other. Yes, the kids do come first and that, but you still have to put time and effort in your relationship. Sometimes you can forget about that, and that can affect your relationship, I think, as well.
Nice, especially when you're taken off to do fight camps and stuff, right? You just pass it on and go.
Well, funny you say that. I said to her the other day, I might be heading off to Brizzy in a week or so to do like 5 or 6 days down there, and she looked at me and, what am I supposed to do? And I was like, oh, you can go stay at my family. I guess it's stressful for them to do it all on their own, and every little bit of help they can get from us is big. If I can take him while she's having a shower, having a feed, and try and help out as much as I can, that's why when I said I was going away for 5 or 6 days, I don't think she was overly impressed. But anyway, I think she'll come around.
See, I can't wait. I mean, totally different age bracket to you guys. Obviously, I've hit 40 now, so like, it's been a wee minute for me to get the bun in the oven. But like, I honestly can't wait. Like it's something that I've kind of prepared myself.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like we're at a different stage in life there too, because obviously you're saying she's 19. If I look at that and sort of go, at 19, I was probably more thinking about going out with friends and doing all that social aspect. So I think it would be a lot tougher for her and yourself. I mean, you're still relatively young. I won't say that you're over the hill just yet. But yeah, I mean, I can see how that constrains stuff as well. Is just purely because you are at that stage of your life. I do have to ask you though, how did you come up with the name of the child? And the only reason is that's probably the biggest frustration right now that me and my partner are having, trying to figure out how we're going to name this thing. And I say this because we don't know if it's a he or her. But yeah, what are some tips you can give me on to coming up with a good name?
It's so funny, like, with naming your child, you never realize how many people you don't like when you go to name a child. It's so funny. You go and have a name, you're like, oh, I know an asshole called that, or I know. So it was so funny. We're going through so many different names, and it's so hard. Hey, we tried for ages and ages on thinking about names, and I wanted, I don't know. I got stuck on the letter H. I kind of like the letter H, and I said to her, "What about Hector?" And she's like, "No, not a chance. Hector's an old." I liked the name Hector, obviously the fighter and stuff like that. Hector Camacho, and there's a few other things, but I was stuck on H, and then I said, "What about Hunter?" And I liked Hunter as well, and she had a cousin called Hunter, so we couldn't do that, and then we come up with Hudson, and we were pretty set on Hudson, which is the name he's got. But then my cousin had a baby and called him Hudson. I was like, "Oh, we can't do that," and we ended up just setting on a Hudson. I know we're going to do a Hudson, and that's what we set it on. I guess, I don't know, it's so hard picking baby names, and then one day one will just come to you and it just sticks, and that's one you enjoy. But I was just Googling different names, and yeah, it was different abstract names and their meanings and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, see, where we've left it at the moment to the point I said, listen, because, I mean, I don't know, did you find out the sex of your child beforehand or did you kind of wait?
No, we found out. Before we got pregnant, I always said that I wanted to keep that a surprise, and then she got pregnant. I was like, nah, I gotta know, I need to know. I was like, I can't do it. We need to know what we're buying, what we're doing. So yeah, we found out. Yeah.
I'm the same. I wanted it to be a surprise. I'm like, come on, man, it's a surprise. It'd be so cool. But she was like, well, I'm finding out. And then I'm like, well, if you know, I want to know, right? I'm not going to sit here for months.
And you know what? It's funny.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, if she knows, if she's buying stuff, you're gonna be like, "That's very girl orientated," or "Boy," you're gonna know.
But now that we've decided to wait, obviously, as I said, we've got a week now until we can kind of get the scan to figure out what sex it is. I was like, look, I don't even want to talk about names right now until because I kind of like my whole point with that is like it eliminates half the names, right? I'm like, so let's worry
Yeah,
about it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Let's worry about it once we find out the sex, because I'm like, I don't want to be worrying about females' names and it turns out to be a boy, or vice versa, that we're worrying about boys' names and it turns out to be a female. So I'm like, look, let's just let it sit for a minute and we'll get to that. But speaking of names, let's. I mean, this is a great segue, I guess. The Viking, or I've also read somewhere it's actually the Viking Warrior. I'm not sure. You might correct me there.
Yeah, I just added that in. Like, I'm not really fussed on the Viking Warrior. I guess the reason behind that was, I've always liked the Canberra Raiders, and I love, I love seeing the stadium, with the Viking clap. And I thought, man, how amazing would this be on, main event telly? And you got, imagine in a stadium, you got 20,000 people doing that for a fighter walking out to the ring. And it just gets me so amped and in the zone. And I feel the closer I walk to the ring, the louder the clap, the faster it gets. I feel like I'm preparing for war. You've seen Tyson Fury's walk out in the weekend as he's a Spartan, walking out the ring. There's always been that thing, and he was amped to go. I think that's getting your mind set, ready to, when you step into that ring, it's ready for war. And at the end of the day, we are modern day gladiators. We are getting in there and for blood sport. This blood money. We're getting in there for war, for violence. This is what it is.
And how much thought process goes into the walkouts? Because I know that's the one thing that I find different between boxing and MMA as well. I mean, I know James Tahuna back in the day tried to do a Men in Black kind of entrance, and I know Conor McGregor had Sinead O'Connor sing at one of his walkouts. But typically speaking,
Yeah,
it's a song they walk out. But I find that whether it's Paul Fleming, obviously with his Indigenous dancers, obviously we talk about the fight that's just happened. It's a spectacle in its own. How much thought process goes behind boxers' walkouts?
yeah. Back in the day, see, there wasn't really any sort of focus on it, and I believe boxing sort of made it sort of died off there for a bit, right? And then when they sort of want to make a resurgence, they needed another spectacle for people to want to watch and people to want to watch on TV. And it gives a spectacle, and people sort of they develop a bit of a liking to a character. That's just how people are. But once you can develop an emotional connection with someone, they'll follow that. And I believe that's what you do. Before the fight, you go, oh, I like the one who walked out as a Roman, and then that one goes, oh, I like the one who walks out as a Viking, or you look at this one, he's walking out, with his indigenous, and I guess developing that different talking point, and then when people are down in the street, they go, oh, did you see that walk out on the weekend with the fight? He walked out on a on a chariot or whatever it is. I guess it just develops another talking point and another spectacle for people to get behind, and I think they're exciting and some of them can be really creative and they're great. I think they're good to watch.
And I guess also in Wilder's case for the rematch was that there was a built-in excuse
Or
because
excuses.
because he said that. So how you obviously watched the fight? How did what did you think of the fight? Did you think it played out the way you thought it would? Anything surprise you in that fight?
Well, the only thing that it played out different was probably Tyson Fury getting dropped twice. I just didn't think he would be getting dropped in this fight. Like you look at the second fight he had, and it was pretty much just dominance the whole way through. I just didn't think he'd be getting dropped. I actually put money on Fury to win from 1-6. Damn it. I was hoping he'd get it done. And when he dropped him in the third, I was thinking, oh, easy money here. And then, boom, he got dropped the next round twice. And I guess, Wilder's just that scary kind of power, eh? Like, it doesn't matter at what point in the fight. He can land a half shot. Next minute, the opponent's on the floor. He got wobbly boot. He's so crazy to fight. And that's why I think, he's half a chance of beating any other heavyweight in any given day, if he lands that shot. So, yeah, but the fight pretty much played out like I thought it would. Fury just pretty much towards the end dominating. I do think that fight maybe could have been stopped maybe a round early or half a round early. I do. It was only heading one way, and Wilder took some big punishing shots in that fight, especially towards the end. He was really getting really getting worked over. And Fury's not a little man, when you got someone who's 280 pounds punching you, it doesn't matter how big a man you are, it's still going to do damage to your skull and your brain. And those are long lasting sort of things on your body. And that last shot there will, that does have an effect on you mentally and physically to your brain and stuff like that. So, maybe you didn't need to take those last few shots or not. But, with the excuses that come out on the previous two fights, I think, a lot of people surrounding the fight, his corner didn't want to throw the towel. The referee even maybe in the back of his mind because the flack that the other referee got. There's so many things involved, I guess, with the third fight that I guess it played out the way it did. So, but I was happy to see Fury win, mate. He's definitely a character, and I think his story is something that people can relate to in such a big way, and he's such a big advocate for that mental health. And yeah, it's just I was so happy to see him get that win.
Likewise, I mean, my money was on Tyson, and it's funny. I exactly like you said it. As soon as he got dropped Wilder, I said to a friend, I texted him, I said, "Here's the beginning to the end." I honestly thought, and my friend, he was actually going for Wilder. He was like, no, and then Tyson got dropped twice, and he goes, "I told you."
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh man, like there's some serious problems here. The thing that I guess surprised me is I've always said for a big fella, Tyson moves really well, and I thought he wasn't moving as much as he normally does.
Incredible. Yeah,
You know?
his head movement's incredible. He moves like a lightweight. Some of those shots he's ducking under and moving, and he was making Wilder miss with some big bombs. And I think that's what you have to do with someone like Wilder is make him miss and push up and push the pace like Tyson did. But he just moves. He moves so unconventional for a heavyweight, Fury, and I think that's what makes him so awkward for people to fight.
And the other thing I love about Fury is, I mean, we're talking about the walkout, but I so look forward to what song he's going to sing once right? Like, I literally, I said to the girl, I said, shh, I said, listen, he's going to sing a song.
He's going to sing. He's going to sing.
I don't know what song it is, but that's what I'm here for. I need to hear that song. So it's funny because, like, obviously it's something that he does, but as you were saying about the spectacles and stuff, like, I actually enjoy that, right? As I say, I sit there and I'm like, all right, what songs are going to be?
Yeah, it's cool. It creates a talking point.
Yeah, sure. And so what do you think is next for both Wilder and Fury? Like, what do you see happening there? Because I know for the longest time now, it's been the whole Joshua fight. But now, obviously, that he's lost, that's probably on the back burner and things like that. So what do you see for both of those fighters?
For me, I would, someone like Fury, I would love to see him fight Dillian White. Reason being is Dillian White has been WBC mandatory for I don't know how long. I don't know, like he's been that mandatory for a lot of time, and he deserves his shot at that title. I think he's the only bloke out of all those heavyweights who was one of the top guys who hasn't had his shot. So I'd love to see Fury, give I forgot his name again already. Give Dillian White his shot. I think he beats Dillian White very comfortably. And then I would love to see Joshua and Usyk fight, and obviously the winner take on then Fury for the undisputed heavyweight title. And then I guess you could say Fury can retire. What else? What else does he have to more prove in the sport? He's beat every single top level fighter of his era. There's no one else there for him to beat. So I'd love to see him go Dillian White, and then probably just the winner of Usyk and Joshua. For Wilder, mate, I guess it's a question of really come back from that. He showed he's got a ton of heart. He's got the heart of a lion, and he showed that. But also too, like I said, those fights take a lot out of you mentally, physically. Like they can really mess you up for a long time. And they're talking that he won't fight till next year. So I mean, and when you got all that money there too, it's a question of do you really want to fight anymore? Do you want to put your health on the line? He is 35, I think. So but if he does decide to fight and he comes back good and he's mentally rejuvenated and his body is, and I think he could go out there and really beat any single one of those top heavyweights. He could spark out Joshua at any moment. He could spark out Dillian White at any moment. He's just one of those fighters. He's could knock any single one of them out at any point. And same thing with him. His story's amazing. He started boxing because of his daughter had spina bifida and started at 20, I think, something like that. So, a lot of these guys have great stories, and I don't think anyone should ever question the fact that they're true champions and they have, the heart of a lion when they step to those ropes. And they'll literally give their life in that ring, most of them. So,
Nice, nice. Well, look, we'll start to round it off a little bit. We've come to that time. I've got a couple more questions, and then I also had a couple of questions sent in that I'll get to you. But
Yeah.
so looking at your career thus far, what is your favorite fight of yours to date?
Favorite fight? I would definitely have to say, um, definitely the fight with Jack Brubaker. That was definitely my coming out fight. The one where I could really, uh, bring myself out to the Australian public and show everyone what I'm made of and really give a good showing on a good platform there down there. So that was probably my favourite fight, and obviously the Tim fight in a way because of what I got out of it as well, from a perspective. But I'd love to one day get that one back.
Nice. And then on the flip side of that, what's your toughest fight to date?
Toughest fight is Jack Brubaker as well. Yeah, that was my toughest fight of my career. That was very hard. I felt, even though I stepped up at the weight on that one, I felt the weight with Jack there. He's a tough man. And, I'm normally used to hitting blokes and they're going to sleep. So to hit him and have him keep coming forward and charging all night, and Jeff Fennick yelling at him, yelling at me, and the crowd and everything, it was definitely, the hardest, but most, I guess, like you said, nothing in life worth having comes easy. That's a saying that I love. And it's so true that because it was so hard earned that fight. Like I remember standing up each round and just thinking, can't wait to see the finish line. Like it was such a hard fight for me, but it was so rewarding. And after I had a few celebrations, so yeah, it was great. It was great to get that win.
Too easy. So now we'll go to a couple of questions that got sent in. The first one is, and we'll try to like keep this as short as possible, but like, what originally got you into boxing?
Yeah, I was just I'm actually from a little town called Crow's Nest, which is about 45 minutes from Toowoomba. Small town, couple of thousand people, and I was a little bit of a rat bag. And one of my mates just said to me I should come down to the local recreation centre and do a bit of boxing, and I was actually pretty shit at boxing. I used to get belted. I remember my first sparring session. I went home, headache, blood nose. I said, "This sucks." I was like, "How do people like this?" And I never really used to take it seriously when I was young, like 12, I think. I was smoking cigarettes and that just when I was stupid, young, drinking, and then I wasn't really that good at it. And then sort of just started putting more time into it, and I guess the coach there did as well, and probably saw the potential that I didn't see in myself, and then started to really take it serious. And yeah, it just sort of got better and better as it went, and then went to the local PCYC when I was about 14, and that's when I really started to have amateur fights, and just got more and more serious as it went. And the better I got, the more serious I got with it. So yeah, I just sort of unlocked my little potential with people who put their time with me, and I'm always thankful for that.
Beautiful. The next one is, even though you took the Tim fight on short notice, did you learn anything from that experience?
Yeah, protect the body shot. Nah, it's hard, eh? Like it's hard to learn something from a fight like that where I wouldn't say I didn't learn anything. I guess it's hard to take a lot away um, in a positive manner. It was one of those things of I knew the risk going into it, and I knew what wasn't on my side going into that fight. So I could look at it and go, oh, if these things were on my side, would it have made a difference or would it have not? I guess also too, probably my own fault is probably try and stay in a bit more in shape all the time. That was my own undoing, and I should have been in a lot more better shape all the time. So
Too
that
e-
was probably the lesson there.
Too easy. Another one is, how much sparring do you recommend doing a week to stay sharp, and how much of that sparring is hard sparring?
I think it depends too. Also, if you're an amateur or professional, that's a big one. I don't see why amateurs need to do huge rounds to stay sharp. I think they should get in there and do between their 3 and 5 rounds sharp, fast, and get out. Like amateurs is about how many points you can score, and I know it's changing a little bit more now, but it's about how much you can get done in 3 rounds. Like after 3 rounds, that's it. You don't get another chance. And it's one of those things you have to get as much done as possible. So, I wouldn't do any more than 3 or 4 in one go if I was an amateur. You know, Professional though, you're fighting longer rounds, especially when you get to your title fights and you're fighting your 10 round fights and 8 round fights. Whereas you can get dropped in the first round, and like thing with Jack, I thought that's okay. I'm going to get you back. I've got 7 more rounds to get you back, and I'm going to get you back. So when you're sparring for a fight like that, I think, like I said, 10 weeks out, I'm only probably sparring once a week hard in the lead up to a fight. And if I'm fighting a 10-round fight, probably spar 6 rounds. And then probably 7 weeks out, I might spar 7 rounds. And then probably about 6 weeks out, I'll probably start sparring twice a week. And then I might start doing 6 here on a Tuesday or Thursday. And then maybe 4 weeks out, I'll try and get some good 8 to 10 round spars in. So closer I get, the more sparring I do, and I want to get that sort of match fitness in. And I guess it's important too as a trainer to know your fighter as well, and not let them overstep the mark. I see some trainers leave their fighter in sometimes for way too long and take too much punishment. In the sparring session because they should have been pulled out a round early. At the end of the day, don't leave the fight in the gym. Sometimes a lot of fighters can leave the fight in the gym and they get to the fight and they got nothing left. They've done too much hard sparring and they got nothing for the fight because they've been belted in the gym. So I think it's important to know when enough's enough on a day, and you go, today's my day. I've had fights where I was 2 weeks out and Brendan pulled me out after 3 rounds because it just wasn't my day. I just wasn't having a good day. But I went out there and I won by knockout, 2 weeks later. So it's not about that day. It's about 2 weeks' time. It's about peaking for that 2 week time. And also too, when you're sparring, it's about getting the most out of that spar as well. If you got a hard spar coming up tomorrow and it's going to be like a fight, it's important that the day before you're not smashing yourself in the gym. You're not doing weights, you're not doing sprints, and then you go into that spar and you've got heavy legs and you're copping all this punishment because your legs won't move or your body's too tired. So in my mind, I'm like, I should have gone a little bit lighter the day before, prep my body for that fight, get the most out of that spar, and then do your strength session the next day or that afternoon or something like that. But get the most out of what you are, and at the end of the day, that's because you're a boxer. So all that other stuff, running, strength, and that should come second. You should be getting what you need 100% out of that sparring session.
Too easy. And then the last one, and this got a disclaimer to it. This is actually from one of my previous guests, Johnny P. I think he was like on episode 5, maybe 4, 6, somewhere around there. He was very early on and he's an Australian artist, but he's also had, I think, 3 fights now in the boxing ring. And he's written in and he said, "Would you ever walk out to a Johnny P song?" And
I don't know. I'd have to listen to a few, I think, first. I have to hear what they're about.
Yeah, fair
Tell
play.
him to message me. I'll have to have a look. I'll have to message him and have a look and see what they're all about. But I won't say no to nothing, eh?
Yeah, and I guess on that, I'll pass on the message, but I guess on that as well, what goes into the walkout song? Because I know some people have had like one song throughout their whole career, and then you have other fighters that chop and change
it up every time.
Every well, not every time, but every year or two, they'll throw a new song. For you, what goes into I guess the song selection? Is it just a mood thing, or is there more to it?
I used to change my walkout song back in the day when I was early on in my pro career, and then once I changed my name to the Viking, I had a friend make up a certain walkout sort of clip song, and he strung it together with the clap in there. And at the start, it's like, "Who wants to be king?" And I guess we sort of just every time add the drums in a bit different. Like the drums will start a bit different. But I have always sort of walked out to that Viking clap as I kind of want to build that persona for me with the Australian public. And, they know when I fight, that's what I would love them to do. When the Canberra Raiders walk out there, the horn goes and then they all start clapping as they walk on. And that's what I kind of want for every single one of my fights. So don't know if I'm open to doing it yet or not, but I kind of want to stick to that one for a while and keep that clap going.
Too easy. Well, that's that for that. And I guess the last one for me is on the 1st of October, you posted fight news coming soon. Can we have any sort of a hint to what's going on there? Have you got a fight coming up? Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm locked in for December 10. That's the date that we're looking at fighting. It's going to be hopefully on a no limit card again, and but it also look, we were in talks with someone at welterweight but it was a big fight, and that's why I was willing to go welterweight. I do want to get back to the super lightweight. That's where I feel best. That's where I was knocking everyone out, and I feel like I'm my best athlete myself there and sharpest there. My weight's right. Everything's perfect. So I want to get back to that weight, but I was willing to do this fight at welterweight. It made sense. It was good money, and the name of the bloke, but there's been a bit of a stall on that at the moment, and what's happening. So I got no freaking news, but look, it's very frustrating for me at the moment to get a fight at super lightweight. A fight I definitely wanted was Darragh Foley, but he's out at the moment due to a shoulder surgery. So hopefully we can sort of make that fight happen in the new year if it still makes sense. I know that's one that fans would love to say. He's put on some good showings on telly, and so have I. And I think it makes an exciting matchup. But at the moment, for me to fight a super lightweight, there's very few and far between to get an opponent. So, but we're working extremely hard on to get something for December. I'd love to get out again and have one more fight for the year. That would make 3 big fights for the year, and keep the record rolling and get me back into the super lightweight ratings as I have fought at welterweight and then super welterweight. So I'd love to get back into that super lightweight rating. But unfortunately, no good news just yet. But it won't be long.
Too easy, too easy. All right, so before I get you out of here, I'll just get what I like to do at the end of every episode is get like a few fight picks. And at the moment, obviously, we've got 2 kind of big fights that are coming up with Australian fighters. The first one is your previous opponent, obviously, is Tim Tszyu versus Inoue. Originally slated to be done in Queensland, where, as we spoke earlier on the podcast, it's now looking to either go to Newcastle, Canberra, or Sydney. Hopefully, they bring it to Sydney. That's my choice. But how do you see that fight play out? Who's your pick for that fight? I think I can guess, but yeah, who's your pick, and how do you see that fight play out?
Yeah, a few people have gone on there and bagged out the fact that Tim's fighting him, and I think that's rubbish. I think Tim is improving every single fight, and he can only fight who's available to him as well. Yes, he is the mandatory for Brian Castano, but there's so much politics in boxing, and it's so hard. He won't get that fight just right now, but people should understand what Tim is doing and how he's building his career. And like I said, people shouldn't jump on him gaining that experience. So when he does get that world title fight, he's going to absolutely freaking crush it. He's gaining as much experience as possible, and fighting a bloke like I know he's a bloody decent fighter. He may be 35 or whatever on BoxRec, but BoxRec means shit. It's just algorithms and all this sort of stuff. So he is rated in the world by the WBO and number 7, I think it is. I think that's a very decent fight. He went the distance with Jamie Munguia, incredible fighter. And he give Jamie Munguia hell for that fight. It was never easy for him. He's a big puncher and couldn't get him out of there. So I don't know. I've thought about this. I think Tim's going to be very sharp, too sharp for him. But this bloke is like built like a brick shithouse, and he just keeps coming forward and forward, which I think could spoil Tim a lot if he can keep that pace going for the rounds. I believe Tim will be a little bit too sharp for him. I think he wins on points. I don't think Tim will stop him. I could be wrong, but I just don't see Tim stopping this bloke. He's very very tough and very durable, and he's beat some good boys. So I think I'll pick Tim to win on points, but just totally outclass the bloke. Once he gets his rhythm about round 4, I think he'll just totally outclass this bloke.
Nice. And then the last fight is obviously a fight that was meant to happen. Then, COVID came in the middle. Then it was going to happen again. It changed over. Then the promotion said they don't want it anymore. Eddie Hearn, I think, has stepped up to the plate. Cambosis versus Lopez. It's finally happening. I'm not sure what date it's happening now, but I think it is going ahead now. Do you like that fight? How do you see that one play out? And who's your pick for that one?
I love this fight for Cambosis. I think this is so incredible, man. He's worked so hard and done it the hard way, which is true. He said that he can have the opportunity here to really make a statement. He's literally fighting for all the world title belts. Like I don't think any Australian's done that before, or if it has, it's done been a long time. So it kind of sucks he's not getting the media attention he should be. But look, he's a big name over in the States, and he's got a huge following over there in Greek and everything like that. It'd be cool to see Australia get behind this man so much more. He's leading the way at the moment. Like I said, fighting for the titles. Man, but then you got a boy in Lopez who's freaking unbelievable, mate. He he's a banger. He's a hard puncher. He can box like all fuck. He's it's a tough task for Cambosis. Like obviously, like I said, I'm going to be patriotic here, and I'd love to see Cambosis go out there and get the win. And I know sometimes he can be very aggressive in the ring, which I hope he's not too aggressive out there and does it very smartly against Lopez, because he's too aggressive. You could definitely run onto a shot. You look at Richard Comey, in that second round, got big, huge right hand. You can't deny it. Lopez is a special talent, obviously beating Lomachenko as well. Look, it's hard. Like I'm gonna, my heart, I'm gonna pick the Aussie, but if I was putting money on it, I had to put my house on it, I would pick Lopez for the win here, just because I believe that he's too big and too strong for Cambosis. But man, I hope Cambosis proves me wrong, and I hope he proves everyone wrong, because I'd love to see that Aussie bring them all back to Australia. That would be huge for us all. So I hope we all tune in for Cambosis on that fight and really get behind him on that one. It's massive.
I agree, and look, I would put money on Cambosis, because the way I bet, it's the most ridiculous way of betting, is literally I pick the underdog and I put money on it. The only difference is I would never put the house on it, right? Like, but I just always say, I always say,
I don't think your missus would. I don't think the missus would appreciate that too much anyway, with the baby on the way, mate. If you bet in your house.
Exactly, but I always say I love a good underdog story, and there's just more value in an underdog bet. But I have to keep the limits on there, right? I have to, and it just takes the emotional attachment out of it. Like I literally look at the odds, I go, who's the underdog, and I'll put money on that person, right? And that way I'm not overthinking on who I truly, because the amount of times I've like thought about it and then like I'll end up losing, and I'm like, damn it, like it was my heart, my heart got into it, and it really hurts. But look. We'll call it an end there. As I said, like it's been good. Just so people know, we had a bit of a misunderstanding at the very beginning. We said we'd jump on at a certain time, not realizing that Sydney and Queensland.
What is the time? Is it an hour difference?
I think so. Hang on. What is the time? It's 1:39 right now. So I think
it's probably
it's an hour.
12:30. It'd be an hour.
Yeah,
an hour difference. Yeah,
it's an hour. So I thought for a minute, you left me at the altar, and I was left stranded, and I was like, but
when you texted, I was like, I think I know what's happened here. Yeah, I think I know what's happened. I think the time difference. I was eating my steak. I was thinking, oh shit.
Well, that was the thing, right? I was kind of like, has he like left me stranded? But then I was like, no, he responded to the text. Like, if anything, then you wouldn't respond to the text. So I was kind of like, I was just confused. Yeah. And then, as I said, I sat there for 20 minutes, and then I sat there for half an hour, and I was kind of like, maybe I should just touch base once again, because I was just like,
yeah,
I'm sure it was like today. I'm sure I got the right time, but like just in case there were wires crossed. And then obviously you said, oh, I'm on Queensland time, and I was like, I never even thought of that. I never once thought about it. And the only time I've had that is obviously when I've had American guests on. Then obviously you do have to really work on time zones. And I guess talking about Johnny P, when you're in Perth, there's a time zone. But being on the East Coast, I didn't even think about the Queensland, New South Wales time difference. Didn't even think.
Yeah, I always forget about it too, yeah.
So as I say, my mistake. But listen, mate, for people that kind of want to reach out to you and follow your journey and hopefully see some fight news come soon, what's kind of the best way of people getting in touch with you or following your journey?
Yeah, definitely. People can jump onto my Instagram page, which is Stevie the Viking Spark. Also, too, on Facebook, I have a Facebook fan page as well as on there, which is obviously the same, Stevie the Viking Spark. And on my Instagram, anyone's welcome to message me and reach out and have a chat. I love chatting to people as well on there about questions and stuff they have. I also sell Viking merch as well. I'd love to see people in the crowds there. When I travel away, see that Viking merch in the crowd, it's pretty cool. So, I also sell that where I can post it out and that. But I'd love for people to sort of get behind me and support me. And obviously my aim's to win a world title. So as much as people can get behind me in this sport would be bloody amazing. Yeah, thank you very much.
And on that note, man, I can't thank you enough. As I said, I really do appreciate the time, and especially for, as I said, episode number 50. That's a milestone to me. I hope that people do get behind you. You really put on some really exciting fights. Your last one, as I say, was a gutsy effort. Like to jump in like that, and as you said, like you're doing it for all the right reasons. I really love that about you. And yeah, man, I wish you all the best. For people who don't know what the Viking clap is, I guess if they go on YouTube, they should search for Canberra Raiders intro or something like that. I'm sure it'll be up there somewhere. Hopefully we'll get a few people clapping the next entrance. And on that note, man, I can't thank you enough. And for everyone else, stay blessed. I'm the one.